Transition. Thank you, Elizabeth. Let's let's get right in there. I think most of you know Russ, but for those of you that don't, um, very few people care about humans the way Russ does, and he is an OG 6AMer, an OG lifelong resident in Greenwich, one of the top agents in that market, and just an incredible human that I have been fortunate enough to get to know over the years since the early days of him coming to Compass. And it looks like we have 10 people or so that have joined since I made the initial announcement. And Russ, maybe if you'll kind of give us your thoughts, but I'll just one more time go through it. We're going to become one Compass Nation, 6AMers, starting in August. And the calls will be at 6 a.m. West Coast time, 9 a.m. East Coast time, and wherever folks are in the middle of the country, either 7 or 8 a.m. Based on demand and wanting to, and post-COVID, we wanted to adjust accordingly. And I think our numbers will be 100 plus, and we'll be one Compass community with the same facilitators. I'll continue to be doing this with Ashley and George and Courtney, and that's really it. So that starts in August, and next week we'll be on it at 6 a.m. as well, and then we'll have the final 6AMers 9 a.m. like we usually do for the final call of the month in July. And so 9 a.m. starting on August 5th, the first Tuesday in August. And Russ, I don't know if you want to share. I mean, you built this 6AMer community with all of these folks, and I know how much this group means to you. So maybe we just start there, and then we can dig in a little bit more after that.
Thanks, Gordon. Yeah, no, really the sky to begin with. I came to Compass in December of 20, and as Elizabeth said, on January of 21, I was looking through Workplace. I go, first of all, what's Workplace? And I saw these groups, and I saw this strange group called the 6AMers, and read the little blurb about it, and so decided to join. But one thing that's important before I get into that further is, Gordon, thank you, thank Courtney, thank Ashley, thank George Rowe now for continuing on and carrying the torch since Sky left. I think this is a incredible group that I'd say half the people on here are incredibly close friends. We travel together a couple times a year to go to different Compass offices. It's just been a real gift to have such close friends that are all over the country that you want to go see, and that when you do go see, it's sort of like, you went to college with them, you're picking up where you left off. So the close friendships, and a lot of that couldn't have even happened if you and Courtney and Ashley and George didn't continue on. So I can't thank you enough, first of all, for what you're doing. And I think this is a normal evolution for 6AMers. I mean, I think it will come back and be a bigger group. We've already melded with the West Coast. We had, parties at retreats where we brought the East and West together. And I think there's been a great deal of friendships there. I always wanted to build a national network, for myself of great agents. And, I got probably 3 years into it and said, you know what, I don't have to work as hard as I thought, because Elizabeth's got a group, Brad's got a group, Richard's got a group, Bill Ryan, Elkin. So you just call those agents, and the people that you don't know, they know. And hopefully you get to come to know them. I really never liked the app that we had about trying to find somebody in a different market. I think I used it twice. Instead, I went old school and picked up the phone and called Richard and basically said, "Hey, Richard, I need somebody here. Can you help me out?" or whatever he said. And the great thing about it is, he might not have that person, but he has a person who does have a person. So it's that, it's the Compass Connect really, which I think taking a new name for workplace is really good. But I just had to start really with that and the gratitude that I have for the time. I know it's not easy. You guys have, big jobs of doing other things, but you've really sort of taken this group under your wing, and we greatly appreciate that.
You're welcome, and thanks so much for always giving and caring. And yes, Elizabeth, I did push the record button early on. So we're recording. We're going to get this. We can all watch it in the future. Thanks for making sure.
Yeah. So just to go back to the question you asked me at the beginning, this is a natural evolution for this group. I mean, we've gone from East Coast to and then West Coast started, and then now we were able to meld the group at I think the last two retreats, and really get to know people across the country. And I think it's a better group altogether than it is separated from the two. So I think that you're going to find that this is going to thrive and do really well. It's not for everybody. Not to be honest with everybody on here, I used to stay up till 3 in the morning and watch TV and work and do other things. And I became a 6 AMer, as I said, in January 21. Totally changed my life and the way I sleep. And I go to bed now at 9 to 10 o'clock every night, get up at 5:30, 6 o'clock or earlier every morning. Actually, I've got my morning routine. I don't know if you can see it on a piece of paper. I check off what I do, and I wouldn't have those things if it wasn't for, getting involved in this group. And so it is what you make of it. I sort of grew my care for people through COVID and Zoom calls. I think I'm still up to 178 Zoom calls with members from East Coast and West Coast, 6 AMers, and all of that, and just trying to get to know people. I mean, this is a people business, and I think we forget. We send an email, we send a text, and you don't really ever talk to the people. And I think that's what I miss, and what I've tried to really hone in on this year is, hey, let's get out of our office. Let's basically get on the street and let's go meet people and basically talk to them and find out, what their pain points are from Ninja, and then go and try to help them, with whatever that might be. Sometimes it's not real estate. Sometimes you're not going to make a dime out of it. But what you're going to do is basically hopefully build a friend that down the road when the time is right and somebody does ask about real estate, hey, that guy in Greenwich, Russ Pruner, give him a call. If he doesn't, can't do it, and especially for me in Greenwich, I only do Greenwich. I mean, Greenwich is one little town in Southwest Connecticut. There are a lot of agents that do, 10 towns in Southwest Connecticut. As my partner told me, and I think you guys have heard before, one of my old partners told me, if you don't know where the dump is in the town, you shouldn't be selling the town.
Love that.
Yeah, and so, that's the way I've always been. So I'll refer to Stacy Zampa and her team in Stanford, Amanda Bryant and Darianne Buchanan. And these are people that I have great trust for, that I know their town as well as I know mine. And, it's worked out in spades.
You certainly know your town. You were born and raised. I think one of your first jobs was walking the greens as a caddy, and now you walk those greens on a regular basis. And um, I think that there's probably not a thing that you don't know about Greenwich. And as you kind of say on your LinkedIn page, your little video, if you don't know it, you'll find out the answer for sure.
Yeah.
And the value there. So, things haven't always been easy for you, Russ. It's easy to come on and say, "Oh yeah, things are going well," and there was a moment I just, for whatever reason, I remember it like it was yesterday. We were
Mhm.
we were at an open house together, and we didn't know each other that well, and we walked out of the house, and we were on the driveway together and we were just kind of catching up, and you were having a challenging time in your business, and
Hmm.
you kind of just said, yeah, I'm trying to figure this thing out and things aren't great. And I think everyone on this call has had at least one of those moments in their business. Talk to us a little bit about how how you dig out of those moments, because I think we don't talk about that enough. It's easy to talk about the successes and
Hmm.
when things are going well, but when you're really at kind of that crossroad trying to figure things out, the business is lonely enough. You know, tell us a little bit about that moment and how you were able to get to a place where you had consistent business and build upon that, where you just felt great about your business.
Um, I think I just learned it over the years. I mean, to give you guys the full backstory, I was asked to be the manager of the Greenwich office in 2018. First person I ever met, having bumped into him off the street in the Compass headquarters, was Gordon. Gordon looked at me and said, "You don't look like you don't know where you're going," which I didn't, and took me into a conference room. I was supposed to meet, I forget who it was, Gordon, the woman, but the woman was looking for me, thought I didn't come to the appointment. Gordon and I had been talking 30 minutes already. So then then Gordon brought Rory in. The woman found us, and then Rory came in. And, unbeknownst to me, Rory's best friend was a really close friend, son of mine. They went to Richmond together, and he was an SAE, and I was an SAE at SMU in Dallas. So things sort of just hit off and all that. But, I decided that that wasn't quite the right path for me at that time, and so stayed where I was. I had a non-compete for another 6 months, and they needed somebody. You got somebody that was unbelievable, who I refer to in Darian Duquesne and Amanda Bryan, who did a wonderful job. And then, so I was just having a really tough year, and I said, you know what, it might not be bad to, do what I did. I ran a company for 27 years and brought in three partners over that time. And, the one thing I learned from all of that, and it's a lot from my parents, was tenacity. Is that, my dad always told me and my mom that, when times get bad, there's lessons to learn, and try to figure out what those lessons are that you should be learning, and not to go with woe is me, because every minute that you keep working and chugging away, you're that much closer to, getting out of the predicament that you're in. Mine was just, I had a lot of older clients and they weren't moving at the time. And, I didn't have a big feeder market from the younger group. There's 60,000 people in Greenwich, and 1,200 of those people have a real estate license. So when
Hmm.
times are easy, they're giving it to their best friend and stuff like that. They didn't really seek out, I think, the people that are I'm looking at right now, the best of the best. And so, I just kept chugging away, but, I figured I'd take the shot and talk to Gordon about it. Someday I think I love teaching. I love really helping others in their career. I do a lot of that here in Greenwich. And try to help however I can to push people's career along with really nothing in return. More than the sense that you can see these people down the road that were making nothing, and now they're $20 million producers. That a lot of them are not at Compass; they're at other companies, and I've tried to get them to come to Compass, but many of them are very stayed and happy with where they are. But it was, it's one of those. I saw it, during the .coms. I saw it in the early '80s when I got in the business. I've seen it in '08. So it's just, COVID. It's no different. I mean, the market's going to be a market right now. We're the last market, at least from a recent article, in America, and these are talking all over America, to have limited inventory. Right now, we've got 131 houses. You want to walk into Greenwich and buy a house under 2 million? I can show you four things, and that's
Wow.
it. So
Four
it's a really
houses.
difficult market, because that was sort of our bread and butter. That 1.7 million to $3 million. If it's under three, I think we might have 15 or 20, but everyone has hair on it and has some problem, and or they got an owner that won't listen to what the market's telling them. So, just tenacity. I mean, pure, just keep chugging and don't let. And I love it when I think it motivates me more when somebody says I can't do something. I'll find a way to do it. I have no doubt in my mind. It's just a question. And the thing I have now at Compass is I can call the best of the best and say, "Hey, I'm having a bad day. Need your help. What can you do for me? Or what would you do in this situation?" And sort of talk through with them. A lot of those people are here on the call. One that I lean on a lot is Melissa D'Angelo in Long Island. I call her Coach because she coached lacrosse for years, and she's great and she's very direct. She doesn't mess around. She tells you straight out what she thinks, and I respect her for that.
That's awesome. The thing I like about that most is rather than going, inside and burying yourself, you look to others to help you get out of it. Tell us a little bit how you connect with others, um, as far as your clients go. You have an incredible national network. Of course, this group was 6AMers, and that has grown through other groups. And you have this way with agents, like you mentioned, that you just want to help them and you want to be there, and then they help you. How have you done it with your own clientele to make sure that you carry that on? You mentioned that a lot of your clients have aged out to a degree,
Mhm.
for maybe moving themselves, but how have you built your business upon your own clients, your network?
Funny you ask. I luckily had parents who were a lot more outgoing than I was, and I remember the first listing I ever had was a good friend of my mom's that she played tennis with at the club I still belong to, and they said, would you give Russ, the listing? I said sure. I'd played tennis with her and all of that, and that turned into the next one from, and a lot due to the club that I grew up at, and a lot of people, saw me, just as a young kid, but I never really got unruly. I didn't do what a lot of children do today, and really kept my nose clean. And if something went wrong, my parents, would definitely scold me and explain that, hey, look, people have long memories, so let's do the right thing at the right time. But a lot of it was their background. They're very deep in their faith, Christian faith, and believing that it's things are going to be okay. But a lot of it too, I did through sports, Gordon. To be honest with you, I'm a really good tennis player, really good golfer. And I go out and beat the daylights out of a lot of older men and women on the tennis court and golf court, and they came to respect me from that first.
Yeah,
And then I never go out and lead with I'm a real estate agent. I basically keep asking questions of the people until it's so blatantly obvious that maybe they might want to ask me what I do,
interesting.
and then it starts the conversation of hey, we're thinking about doing this, or I've got a son and a daughter that are being transferred to the area they'd like to buy here, and go from there. So it's very casual,
Yeah.
not pushed, and trying to be sort of the go-giver. I mean, keep doing nice things for people, and it'll come back to you.
The Go Giver, for those that are not ninjas and haven't read that book, give us a little bit about, let's if you can go a little bit deeper there. I mean, to you it seems natural and casual, but maybe
Yeah.
for others it could be a good gem. Give us a little bit more on the Go Giver.
Well, it's sort of like what Ninja says too, is that, the person you're talking to is the most important person at that time. And basically what you do is you keep them talking, and I've been pretty good about asking questions.
Yeah,
A quick funny story is my dad
please.
told me when I went to pick up a date, he said, "Look, here's what's going to happen. You're going to get to the door. the mom and the daughter are probably going to be upstairs getting ready, and you're going to walk into the dad and maybe another daughter or son. He said, "Here's what I want you to do. I want you to keep asking questions of them until you find something that you guys have in common, and then you only talk about that." And so that's what I would do. And that's sort of what, Go Giver is. They're more important. Keep asking them questions, find out, and, a little ninja in here about if there's pain and things that you can help them with, but keep them talking. Give them, give, 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 give. And, if they're really believe in you, then it'll come back to you in spades because they consider you, really, good person and all of that. Some people that never ask you about you don't want to have as clients. And that was the
Yeah.
hardest reality that I had to face is that there's sometimes it's better you don't work with somebody because they're just going to take up so much of your time and all of that. But I've had some of my worst clients become one of the best referral people I've ever had because they felt bad that they didn't go through with a deal.
Mm.
So go givers really, I mean, is the idea of continuing to, even when they're not giving back to you, it will switch at some point, but keep doing things for people and finding out what they like. And I always like trying to find the little things. I mean, somebody's looking at this is sort of stupid, but it's sort of the way Greenwich is. Some guy was trying to find a rare wine for his wine collection. And so
Mm.
I knew somebody who was a big deal in the wine business, and they basically said, "I'll get you that bottle, but it's going to cost a lot of money." And I said, "Let me know." And so we found, I think a bottle it wasn't as much as I thought it was going to be, but like $1,500 or something like that. So I got the bottle for him, and it completed years of in his wine cellar. I never got to drink the bottle, but he talks every time he goes anywhere. Yeah, my real estate agent, he basically, saw my wine collection and was able to, get me this one bottle that I've been looking for years. So, it's just, it can be a little as something memorable to the individual in their life in the past that, you basically, instead of giving them some flowers, when you do a deal with him, you give them something that they're going to want to keep and not just throw away.
Yeah, my coach has a saying: people want to be around people who are interested, not interesting. And that's you describe that so well. I've never met a person who um, doesn't appreciate care, and you exhibit the best of that, my friend. You do. You're always giving. You talk about the go giver, but you're always thanking people. You're always generously recognizing people, and even in challenging moments. And I know it comes so natural to you, but it's um, it's one of those things you've upped my game, and I see how you've done it with others, and I know so many on this call have seen that from you. Uh, Talk to us. Look, you owned your own brokerage, as you said, and you're on, the sales side or in production, as it's called. Um, what are what are some of the things, being on both sides of the business can give you interesting perspective. Where if you're just on one side or the other, you really don't have the perspective of being on both sides. So talk to us a little bit about that, and share with us whatever you like that you think could be helpful for this group as it relates to, you know, um, what you can bring forward. Maybe your lessons from being on the ownership side of a brokerage or on the employee side um, to the agent side, and some of those things that you've been able to bring forward that have been beneficial to your business.
Okay, number one thing I think, or one of the number top things is, I have a small team now. It's my brother, another woman who's been in the business 30 years, looking at bringing somebody else on that's is newer to the business, but has business experience and real estate experience. But the thing I learned, if it's not the right fit, and you're going to know pretty quick within 3 to 6 months, you got to have that tough conversation. And my partner's always made me have it with somebody and saying we only lost two people in 27 years,
Wow.
but both people needed to go. They just didn't fit with our personality. So I didn't want that little drop of oil in the water. I know you guys have done it also in Compass, where there's some people making a lot of money and they could be an agent at Compass or they were an agent at Compass, but they just treated people so poorly and just it was like a wreck in their way. And I just had, all sort of wreckage and carnage behind them. You've got to have that quick conversation, say, you know what, I think this isn't quite working out the way we hoped. I think it's better that we part ways now because, I think it's going to be difficult to, move forward together. And, you're really doing them a favor.
Yeah.
You might think that they're going to, but that's okay. I mean, they're people. If they're going to be resilient and be able to make it in this business, they need to know that early in their career. And, maybe as I happened when I started my company and went in with my first partner, my wife, I was agonizing over selling half the company to this woman, Nancy Healy, and she goes, you know what? And she going to bed and she said, could the problem be you? And I'm like, and I stayed up all night long and I looked in the mirror and I go, the problem was me. She's a very lovely person, but my ego got in the way of basically trying to do a deal that, turned our company into a company that did over 300 million, in sales one year. But, it's one of those that sometimes you got to look at yourself and you got to see, hey, am I causing this problem? Or is it somebody else? Yes, being at the top and a team lead or head of a company, you can be that difficult person if you want to be, but it's just as easy being likable and
Yeah.
somebody who cares and help them grow as it is somebody who's a royal pain in the ass.
Yeah. Yeah. That is, it's interesting you went right there because it's one of those things, as an agent, uh, most agents are not great managers or they're not used to running the business. They're used to doing what they do best, right? Helping others find homes, apartments, um, and building that business. But and I would say that the single biggest thing that you bring up, Russ, is that they're afraid or to ask somebody to leave their team. It's really hard for anyone to fire somebody, and uh, so that is such a great point that if it's just not a good fit, and it is one of those things that we do regularly at Compass. But we have a great screening process. Sometimes we make a mistake, or sometimes things change, and then you got to sit down and say, hey, look, let's just make sure we're respectful and let's make sure we get this right. And if it's not right, then you got to have that hard conversation. Um,
I think the hardest part, Gordon, is I don't think no one from here on this call, nobody in Compass is from Compass. They're from somewhere else.
yeah,
And they've had the privilege in many cases to see what it's like somewhere else.
yeah,
And I think those people appreciate Compass that much more because of what it does offer, who the people are, that they are willing to do the right thing and all of that. But some of the people that, like, I've got two young guys on my team, they don't know anything but Compass because they came in on our team under us and don't know something else. I've
yeah,
told them both, I have no problem leaving at any time, if they feel uncomfortable, because I know when they get elsewhere, they're going to go, what the hell did I just do?
yeah,
This place is horrible. And you then look throughout Compass and look at how many agents that were top agents that basically left for greener pastures to find out that the grass is wilting and that there isn't anything going forward. This is really, except my own company, the only company I've met. It's sort of frustrating at times where you turn on Workplace, you turn on Business Tracker or something, and you thought you've got it down, and they made changes to it, and you're like, oh God, I got to start again. And especially after 40 years, it's like me trying to learn French or something,
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm at 68, I'm like, look, I really don't want to have to learn this again. Can't you just remain static? I mean, it's working really well for me, but no, we're always pushing the limit. And I think that that's a fun thing to be able to do. But, the other thing too is, guys, is get on a Zoom or get on a phone, preferably in person, and go talk to a Richard Bush, Bill Ryan, Elizabeth Marks, and Elkin Cerna, Patricia Weeks. I mean, there's so much to learn from these people because just about life, not just about Compass and real estate. If you just take the time and be where your feet are, and just have a real frank conversation with them about what are they doing, how have they done. And I'll tell you, the most fascinating thing I've learned throughout all of this is what people did before they got into real estate.
Interesting.
There's some really talented people that had some freaking amazing jobs, but a time period came that they weren't happy with that job anymore and jumped into real estate and been very, very productive. But just to listen to their stories and sort of how they got to be who they are is really interesting.
Thank you for that. One of the things that you're making me think of is when you mention it's not just business um, and Compass and real estate is uh, the way you show up for your family. You have you know, you know your your siblings, what you've done for your family to be there for them and prioritize that in a moment, and it says so much about you, how you've been there for, I know, your brother. And how do you manage all that while you run the business and you have a team? And how do you put it in perspective? What advice do you have for others on
I was lucky to have parents that were like that, if
that? Yeah.
something was going on, they drop everything and go help people. My
Interesting.
mom used to walk into a room with my two brothers. My dad, we're sitting down at a restaurant. She sees somebody in the back right corner sitting alone, thinking or feeling. She feels they just need someone to talk to. She'll go over and talk to them for 15 minutes
Wow.
and then come back to the table. And we're always like, Mom, why do you do that? Said, that person was having a bad day. I just want to go and try to help them out a little bit and make them feel
Amazing.
better. But I think it's a lot of that. I mean, we are a close family. I mean, we take 2 or 3 family trips a year. We have grandkids now that we want to get to know each other, and it's just trying to stay close. I mean, I've got friends on here that are going through some very difficult, as Elizabeth said, health things and stuff, and we all look after them, pray for them, and hope that they, get better. Some people won't open up like that, but I think that's what's been the great thing about the people I met at Compass is that I learned if you have enough common experiences with people, people get more and more comfortable with you around. And so that's what I've tried to do with a lot of people is let's go on trips, let's, do things. Let's get on Zoom calls, let's build relationships outside of real estate. And then when, if we need each other in real estate, everybody's more than willing to drop
I love that.
everything and, hey, how can we help you? What can we do? And help solve questions. And, that just comes from an upbringing of great parents and, sometimes pain in the ass brothers, but good brothers too.
Lessons from mama. They say kids don't listen to what you say, they watch what you do. And you just gave
Mm,
me the chills with that story that you told me about your mother. you would watch her walk over and take care of that. It's just amazing.
I
Yeah,
learned to do it another. I learned to do it another way now. I used to be the guy who would go and put his hand out and try to meet people. And when I went to the first retreat in Austin, I did that because I really didn't know anybody, but really 6AMers.
sure.
But then what I've learned is through the friendships that you build, let those people go and meet people, and then you just go up and say hi to Elizabeth or to Richard or to Bill or whoever, and they introduce you then to that person they're talking to, so you get indirectly introduced to the person without having to go up there and try to come up with the questions you need to ask to find some commonality with each other.
That is so great. And uh, Trish put in. I was about to ask you. We're at time here. I was about to ask you anything else you want to share with this group. And while you think about that, Trish put some of the
Yeah.
learnings she's gotten from you. Make people feel welcome, even if you don't have time. Don't speak when angry. Keep in touch with people, and you can learn at any age. I see you smiling there. That's all Russ
That
wisdom right
number that number two I that number two I learned the hard way. Don't speak when angry.
there.
I did that for too many times, and I finally just decided the best way to do it. If you're really mad, you basically get out of the room or the conversation, go somewhere. You might beat up a toilet,
Yeah,
or whatever, but calm down and then go back and have a rational conversation. I've spoken out of tune too many times through an emotion that you know I wish I could take back, but once said, it's hard to take it back.
yeah. What do you want to close out with, my friend? This was a special
Just
moment for me, and I appreciate you sharing all of your life learnings with this group. You have a lot of wisdom inside of you. I know it comes natural.
thanks.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Russ.
One, send me a referral, but no, I'm joking.
Yes,
Um,
love
no,
that.
I think that, what I really look at is thank you all for coming and getting up like I did. I didn't want to get up at 5:30 in the morning, but this group is an incredible group of wanting to grow and to build and to learn and get to know each other. And all I can ask you to do is continue to make that effort to get up and do it. And I promise you, I think I was talking to John Jenkins out west one time, and I think Robert or Rory told him that maybe the highest producing group of any group in Compass are 6AMers,
Wow.
where they basically have more volume per agent than any other. And I think it's a lot because we want to learn and we want to grow and be with each other and not be complacent. I think that's the hardest thing. But keep coming to this group, even though it's going to be out west for us. I'm sort of excited, but I'm not in the fact it's going to be 9 a.m. instead of 6 a.m.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think our small group we have will still get up at 6 a.m. just to keep the dedication going.
love that.
And
Thank you.
thank you again, Gordon, for all you've done for me and everything, and this group, and really Compass. I mean, you've always been the guy that steps up, when asked, and yeah, okay, I'll take it on, and thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome, Russ. And yeah, I love this place like a child. I
Yeah.
often refer to it as
I've
my,
learned to love it too, just like you have, and I think the other people on here are the same way.
yeah. Oh, Russ, I'll remember this conversation for a very long time. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Appreciate you. You're getting lots of shout outs in the chat. Lots
Right.
of, yeah, lots of people thanking you and hearts and
Yeah.
stuff.
Well, I look forward to getting together. I'm sorry it's going to be New Orleans in next October or whatever
Yeah.
for the next retreat. I really enjoy, meeting and get together with a lot of the people that we see on what we've dubbed sort of Hollywood squares here.
All right, everyone, go attack your Tuesday. Russ, thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Appreciate you. Have a great
Appreciate
day,
you
everyone.
guys.
Take
All
care.
the best. Take care.
Thank you, Russ.
Mhm.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, Russ. Thank
Thanks
you,
so
Gordon.
much.
Great
You're
call.
welcome.
Great to
Thanks,
see you,
everyone.
Russ.
Great to see everybody. It always is.
So
Looking
Russ,
forward
you've
to
been a
doing
great
more
pro.
of it. Yeah, thanks. Good. Take